the Surangama Sutra spoken by the Buddha. At that time, the Tathagata, seated upon the lion's seat, adjusted his lower robe, gathered his sanghati robe, and drew the 7-jeweled table toward him. He reached toward the table and picked up a flowered cloth offered by deity of the Kapala Heaven. Before the assembly, he tied it into a knot. So at that time, Sakyamuni Buddha, on his seat, adjusted his lama skirt or robe. What Sakyamuni Buddha wore was more like those worn by Thai monks. What is the sanghati robe? It's a robe that's worn by the monastics. It's like the precept robe, the kasaya robe. So he was adjusting his lama robe and kasaya robe, and if there's a table, he just drew it toward him, a table with 7 jewels. So he reached toward the table and picked up a flowered cloth. Maybe you don't know what flower cloth is. That's tanka. Let's change it to tanka. What is the Kapala Heaven? It's the heavens of time. Kalpa is the number for time. So that's also called the heaven of time. It's like a god who made offering of hatha to Sakyamuni Buddha. So Sakyamuni Buddha was adjusting his lama robe and then gathering the sanghati robe. I've seen that because the Venerable Goxian gave me that. That's worn by the monk of the Southern School with 9 lines. That's something to be worn when you go out as an honored guest. It's like 9-strip kasaya, 9-panel monastic robe. There's the hatha that was offered by the Kapala Heaven. I'll just explain it like this so that you understand. Otherwise, you may not understand this cryptic ancient wordings. We picked up a hatha offered by the god. Then, before the assembly, he tied a knot in the hatha and showed it to Ananda, saying, "What is this called?" Ananda and the assembly replied together, "This is called a knot." A knot. Can we tie a knot with this? Yeah. It's too short. So he tied a knot. What is this? Ananda said, "That's a knot. What is this called?" Ananda and the assembly replied, "This is called a knot." The Tathagata then folded the flowered cloth and tied another knot. And once again he asked Ananda, "What is this called?" Ananda and the assembly replied again, "This is also called a knot." In this way, following the proper sequence, the Tathagata repeatedly folded and tied the flower cloth until there were 6 knots in all. Each time a knot was formed, he held up the knot in his hand and asked Ananda, "What is this called?" Ananda and the assembly answered the Buddha in sequence each time, "It is called a knot." So the answer was the same. This is also a knot. The Buddha said to Ananda, "Now, you call this hatha knots." And Sakyamuni Buddha asked, "Why did you call them knots, the 6 things? Why do you call the 6 things knots? On this towel, you tie 6 knots, but why do you call them all knots?" That's the profound meaning behind this. Didn't I tell you the other time that Sakyamuni Buddha loves to use analogy? I told you this, right? There are 6 birds perching on a power line. When someone shoots the bird, how many birds are left? None. So when there are no birds, what's left? Just the power line.
讲它是哈达呢？为什么讲成结呢？
Why didn't you say hatha? Why did you say knots? That's what Sakyamuni Buddha is asking. When I tie the knot, you keep saying, oh, that's one knot, that's knot, second knot, third knot, fourth knot, fifth knot, fifth, sixth knot. Why do you call them knots? So there's a sense of philosophy in here. It's philosophical. When I tie one, you call it knot. The second one, you call it knot. The third one, you call it knot. And I tie 6, and you still call it knots. Why did you repeat and call them all knots? What else would you call it? Think about it. You did not say the hatha. It's originally the hatha, and you just look at the knots on the outside. It's a long hatha that's being tied into knots, and you keep saying, oh, this is the knot, this is the knot. So Sakyamuni Buddha made another analogy. Sakyamuni Buddha told Ananda, these things was made from cloth. When I first tied the cloth, you call it a knot. So when I tie 100 knots, you call it 100 knots. Ananda said, this is what I think. When you tie it's called a knot. And then when you tie 100 knots, then you call it 100 knots. And you only tie 6 knots on the hatha, not 7. And you don't stop at the 5th either. So why does Sakyamuni Buddha recognize only the first as a knot, but not the second and the third? So he asked this to the Buddha. And then the Buddha told Ananda, no, that this precious flower cloth was originally only one piece. When I tied 6 times, 6 knots came into being. But if you examine it carefully, the hatha is still the hatha. Let's stop here. Observe carefully that the cloth itself is only one. And by tying the knots, you call it knots. Why don't you just say it's one hatha? Why do you call it knots? So, in a human body, there's only one wondrous, luminous, true mind. Only on it we added the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So you don't talk about the wondrous, luminous, true mind. All you can see is just the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind are the 6 roots. So people of the human world only look at the surface. That the human life is only looked at on the surface. But you don't see the inner Buddha nature. You cannot see the inner Buddha nature. The human was originally have eternal life, but you cannot see it. And you say you're a certain human. So Sakyamuni Buddha used this as an analogy. Now, do you understand? Sakyamuni Buddha, of course, is correct because he's the Buddha and we're just mundane beings. We only see with the eyes, hear with the ears, smell with the nose, taste with the tongue, the body to touch, to feel, and the mind to think. How would we know that he was talking about this? We only talk about the external things, Ananda too. Then he will teach us how to untie these knots. That's the general meaning of the Surangama Sutra. You have to untie these knots. Do we need to untie the knots? How to untie the knots? Then we can read the Surangama Sutra how. We will continue next time.